15, 20 minutes, this really is just a whistle-stop tour of step change and safety, who we are, what we're all about. I'll tell you a little bit about our structure, how we function, and very much a little bit about what we're doing at present and where we're going in the future. And like I say, it will be a whistle-stop tour. I've only got 15, 20 minutes. I could speak for 3 hours on this, believe it or not, and it's not going to last that long. So yeah. Kevin McKenzie, introduce myself for a start. I'm the project coordinator within Step Change and Safety. I'm one of a team of 5 people. There's this preconceived idea that we're a huge organisation. We're not. Step Change and Safety, full-time staff-wise, we have 5 staff. We have the team lead, Les Linklater, who saw earlier on today, most of you. We have myself, and we have the senior business analyst, Gillian Simpson, who spoke today. Then Emily Taylor, who's also presenting a similar book at the end of the arena, and we have a business support, Emma Robertson, and that's the 5 staff we have within Step Change. So I'm either overworked and underpaid, or I don't know what it is, but a lot of good work we're doing for the 5 of us we have. So who are Step Change and Safety? A little bit of a history lesson for you, a little bit about who we are, where we came from. Step Change and Safety, we were formed in 1997, and so we're all roughly 16 years old. At that time, in 1997, we were founded, basically the oil and gas industry trade associations came together and created Step Change and Safety. And their aim, or their vision at that time, 16 years ago, was to basically reduce UK oil and gas industry rate, injury rate by 50%. That was their vision, that was their goal. If you jump forward 16 years and a number of different evolutions, our vision now, as you can see along the bottom of the screen, a very general vision. Our vision now is basically, our aim is basically to make the UK the safest place to work in the worldwide oil and gas industry. That is our aim, that's our vision. 3 years ago, Step Change and Safety set out their strategic plan. They set out a number of very clear objectives. Their purpose was, and it's on the screen there, 6 different objectives. The purpose of what we're trying to achieve, what we're trying to do to achieve our vision. I mean, no excuse for reading them out, and I'll read them out to you. Our industry, one of our objectives was our industry has the competence to identify hazards and to ensure that risks are properly controlled. Second one, we will have strong and sustainable leadership in health and safety. Third one, our workforce will be fully engaged in health and safety. We will raise standards and continually improve our health and safety performance, goes without saying. Asset integrity will be effectively managed across our industry. And the last one being, health and safety issues will be effectively communicated. Big thing for us at the moment, the communication. I will go on and speak about, very briefly, how we are addressing each of those objectives and what we're doing to address them and achieve our goals. I'll touch on some of the ongoing work we have within Step Change just in the next couple of minutes. Bearing in mind I only have 15 minutes roughly to tell you about it. That's Step Change and Safety. Just to add as well, we are not-for-profit, we're a not-for-profit making organisation. We're member-based, we're made up of our members, and at present we have roughly about 110 members, made up of the larger operators, the larger companies, all the way down through the smaller supply chain and other companies. So we're a very, very much a member-based organisation. So that's ourselves. The structure of Step Change. This might come as a surprise to some of you, how we're made up and how we're structured. Step Change itself is made up, like I say, from our members. We have, I suppose, what you would call a 3-tier organisation. The top tier being like the strategic level, and you've got the tactical level and the operational level, I suppose, if you're putting into those terms. And that's how our business is conducted, and basically how we conduct our business within Step Change. I'll go through each of the tiers and tell you how they relate to Step Change, what they do, how they drive Step Change, how they mould Step Change. So at the top tier we have the strategic level. We have the Step Change and Safety leadership team. The Step Change and leadership team are made up of industry heads, leaders, CEOs, MDs. They're also made up of the regulator, HSE, represented on the Step Change and leadership team. There's also representation within the leadership team from the unions, RMT, Unite, and most importantly, for today especially, in my opinion, the most important is the workforce are represented within the leadership team itself. They sit at the highest level within Step Change. and those being normally in the form of elected safety reps who we have here today in the audience. So they do sit within the leadership team. They sit at the level of the CEOs, MDs. Within that leadership team, the leadership team are responsible for basically monitoring and planning the business structure within Step Change. They look at what's relevant, what we're doing at the moment, and they guide us basically. They guide the rest of the Step Change work streams. I'll go on to speak about them just very shortly. So that's the leadership team. The next tier down, the three-tier system, next tier down are our steering groups. And the steering groups are chaired by, again, industry heads. And within those steering groups, there's representation across industry, mainly from our membership. Those steering groups, we have 5 at present. Different steering groups, 6 in brackets, possibly a 6th one coming online, maybe in the near future. For the 6 steering groups we have, our workforce engagement, obviously today, human factors steering group, and I don't know if you can read that from there, but Mike Boyer, Ian Sharp, they chair the workforce engagement steering group. Human factors is Bob Fennell and Dave Stewart. Bob's from Next and Dave from Wood Group. The third one's asset integrity, Steve Bullock and Jeff Holmes, Steve from Petrofac and Jeff from Talisman Sinopec. Competence, we have Rod Buchan and Martin Rutten Persson, who spoke today obviously, and helicopter safety is our 5th steering group, chaired by Alan Chesterman and Tim Glasspool. So those are the 5 steering groups, and just very similar to the leadership team, they plan and monitor work activities around those topics and feed that back into the leadership team, who then look at it in a wider perspective basically. So that's the steering groups, those are the topics they have, and then from that we have a number of different work groups coming out, the steering groups, and that's where all the work's done, as the title suggests. That's basically what we call the engine room within Step Change. From each of these steering groups, there are a number of different work groups. That's just a selection of them on the screen at the moment. We have work groups in relation to the marine transfer of personnel, we have control of work groups, assurance and verification, we have a work group in relation to hydrocarbon release prevention, we have a work group in relation to hydrocarbon release prevention and the database the HSE holds. We've got a project ongoing in relation to that and examining the database that's held by HSE. So a number of different work groups feeding off the steering groups. These work groups are made up of industry experts, people who have a lot of experience in their field in relation to the topic that they sit on, and basically experts within industry. So basically that's the 3-tier system. The work groups feed back into steering groups. The steering groups, as the title suggests, steer the work groups, ensure they're on track and plan their work activities. And the steering groups feed back into the leadership team, who look at the bigger picture and feed it back down again. And that's the structure of Step Change. What's important to note here as well, there's almost a group missing here, that group being the Step Change support team, and that's the 5 people I spoke about at the start, most important people. Basically, the Step Change support team, we manage all these work groups, we project coordinate all the work groups, basically we underpin everything that's going on within Step Change itself, leadership team, steering groups and the work groups. So we basically coordinate all that activity. We're the ones who produce all the, for want of a better phrase, the sexy publications, all the initiatives, we draw all that together. We're the one that pull together all the best practice, the learnings, and put it in a very much a readable format. So we're the ones that do the work, is what I'm saying. We're the swans with all the feet that are heading away in the weeping water. So that's the Step Change support team. So basically they underpin the whole structure. So just to go through some of the objectives I spoke about from the strategic plan and how we're addressing those within Step Change. I'll go through them one at a time, just the more relevant topics. First one being, the first objective was, one of the objectives was asset integrity will be effectively managed. How are we doing that? How are we addressing that objective? 3 years ago roughly, industry set a target of reducing the amount of hydrocarbon releases by 50%. Quite a target to set, quite an achievement. That was back in 2010, and at that point it was about 187, I think it is 190 hydrocarbon releases at that time. The target was to reduce that by 50%. That came to a conclusion in March of this year. That was a 50% 3-year target. We missed it by 3. We got down to 97 hydrocarbon releases last year, so we missed it by 3. But it's still a 48% reduction of hydrocarbon releases over that 3-year period. And that itself is quite an achievement, to be honest. And that's come through the collaborative working, through industry, through the work groups, through the steering groups, and led by the leadership team. So we didn't hit the 50%, but 48% is pretty damn good, to be honest. So we're happy with that. How do we achieve that? What do we do to try and achieve that? What do we contribute? Well, from the Asset Integrity Steering Group and down through the work groups, they've produced a number of pieces of good publications and initiatives. See them on the screen there just now. We've got a publication in relation to just guidance on hydrocarbon release reduction plans. It's a downloadable document. It's on our website. All our publications are on our website. We've also got we also have a publication in relation to assurance and verification guidance, and NGI integrity, route to competence, and mechanical joint integrity, to name just 3. They're all downloadable on our website. We have hard copies of simply these 2. This is downloadable only because of the size of the document. It's little things like that, little initiatives that we put together that contribute to making the mark and hitting the target of that reduction, yes, albeit 48%. There is discussions ongoing about the next target. Obviously that came to conclusion in March, April time of this year. I don't know what that is yet. The leadership team are looking at that, and what the next target should be. So we're at 97 at the moment. What should the next target be? I don't know. Watch this space. Another objective within the strategic plan that I spoke about, our workforce will be fully engaged. I'm not going to labour this. This is basically what you're here for today. There are a number of booths throughout the arena. They talk about workforce engagement. They talk about the success of workforce engagement and the use of the workforce engagement survey tool that we produce. I won't steal their thunder. They can tell you about that in the next booth when you move on. But basically, the workforce engagement survey tool that we have is produced by the Workforce Engagement Steering Group. It measures and compares engagement levels at specific sites within your companies, and it allows for the development of improvement action plans. What I would say with the Workforce Engagement Survey tool we have is we've had a huge uptake on the survey tool itself. The survey tool was launched back in September, October time last year, and in that short period of time, up to date, we have had, well, been requested over 12,000 surveys from across industry. And we've had a return rate back into us, completed surveys, in the last 6-8 months of just over 5,500 surveys. So we now have a bank of about 5,500 surveys from industry that we can now look into, bury down into, and look at where the common trends and the common patterns lie. So we've got a huge bank of surveys sitting there, and we are doing work with an outside company to look at analysing those surveys. What I would say with the survey as well, and again it will be explained to you in a different booth, is it's anonymous. You don't have to put your name on it, and it really is anonymous. The surveys come back through us, and there's no way of tracing who's actually filling out the surveys, which is a big fear. There's a lot of people taking part in the survey. One thing to add with the survey as well, and I'll probably mention again, is the survey was recognised as being a very valuable tool to the extent that it was one of 2 nominations from the UK that was put forward for a European award. We didn't win, we came highly commended, and again that's good enough for me. We came second, that's what we could say, out of 2. So we're happy with that. So the survey tool was recognised as being a very useful tool in industry. It's growing day after day, week after week, and the uptake is phenomenal. We've had an awful lot of different companies outside our membership, and different companies and organisations outside the UK interested in the survey tool. So I would encourage you to use it if you've not used it. Have a look at it. Again, it's online, it's downloadable. Another objective, and very relevant for today anyway, in the current climate, is issues will be effectively communicated. Last year we had 2 helicopter ditchings. This is not the forum for me to speak about that, and I can't answer any questions on that if you do have any questions. But what I would say is we have a very, very detailed communication strategy in relation to putting out information that comes through step change, putting out the hard facts, the figures, from step change out into industry. Now, we're very conscious within step change that there's a rumour mill out there, there's a number of different mediums used to communicate out there, not just in the industry but in society, and I'm talking about Facebook, Twitter, etc., etc. We're trying to make sure that we have a communication strategy that will put out there what's actually going on within industry, what are the hard facts, what's the truth behind what's going on. And nothing more relevant than the helicopter ditchings. I'm sure you see the front page of the papers, you get the news, Facebook, Twitter, there's a lot of different things out there. So we're trying to narrow that down and a more focused attempt at communicating with the workforce. With that in mind as well, on the communication side of things, we took two parties of delegates, in the audience here or there, to Marignan in France, to the Eurocopter facilities. We've had 2 trips there to look around the facilities, look at what they're doing in relation to investigating the root cause of some of the ditchings that occurred last year. So step change themselves, we've taken parties out there, mainly safety reps, those in the workforce. We've taken them out there, flown them out there, taken them around the factory, let them see what's going on, a hands-on approach to finding the root cause of the helicopter ditchings. And again, communicating actually what's going on within the steering group. We send out a number of fact sheets every month, and we do that across the board in all our steering groups. Our fact sheets come out from all our steering groups as to what we're doing within step change. Again, they're downloadable and they're on the website. Look at our website and you'll find them all there. Very briefly, another objective, raise standards and continually improve. Last year we did 2 helicopter ditchings, so in response to that, we looked at, well, do we need to issue some kind of guidance, some sort of best practice for the marine transfer of personnel? Because the shortage of helicopters, the seats on helicopters, how do you as companies, as organisations get your staff offshore? Do we need some form of guidance, off-the-shelf guidance, as in break glass in emergency? What do we do? So in response to the ditchings, we formed a marine transfer of personnel work group. Potentially that may become a steering group, a marine safety type steering group. But the marine transfer of personnel steering work group looked at producing best practice guidance for use in exceptional circumstances in relation to the transfer of personnel offshore in the absence of helicopters. And it's looking at providing guidance in relation to frog transfers, walk to work, etc., etc. That work group is ongoing, the guidance is still being produced, but it's in the pipeline and it will be published in due course. Human factors is our most recent, probably toolkit we'll be releasing towards the end of the year. Human factors, 3 years ago we released Human Factors First Steps, our document, examining human factors in the workplace. We now have developed new case studies in relation to human factors. The First Steps document has, I think it's 12 case studies. We've developed further case studies to further develop a Next Steps document. And we're also working with, we're looking to produce well-specific case studies also. In relation to human factors as well, we'll be releasing an online human factors self-assessment toolkit towards the end of the year, probably about August, September time. And we're producing an online toolkit like the workforce engagement type toolkit, very similar to that, where you can go in and almost self-examine yourself, self-examine what you're doing in relation to human factors issues, and that will be available towards the end of the year. That's in production meantime. Our most recent initiative, most of you have hopefully seen it or heard of it, is Joined Up Thinking. Joined Up Thinking is very much a series of learning packs. It's our latest initiative. It was released at the start of the year. It's designed to increase the offshore workforce's awareness of different safety issues. And every year there will be a different theme. This year it's hydrocarbon releases. So obviously we were coming to achieving our target in March time, and we've decided to be hydrocarbon releases this year. The series of engagement packs, there will be different ones released every second month. We've had, at the beginning of the year, we released a pack in relation to major accident hazards and safety critical elements. We've had small bore tubing. This month it's obviously Piper and our film clippers have been released. So basically every second month there will be a different PowerPoint released. And that's the thing with joined up thinking, basically. What it is, we're producing material for you to use. You don't have to go and start Googling material, searching the internet for material for presentations as part of safety management talks, toolbox talks, whatever that may be. We're producing this material and giving you the PowerPoints just to lift straight from our website and produce for you guys to use onshore and offshore. So the work's done for you. So every second month we'll have a different topic, and every different year there'll be every year will be a different theme basically. I'm going to show you the film clip for it. There's a very short 2-minute film clip in relation to joined up thinking. It's part of our release pack. Like I say, some of you have maybe seen it.
150 miles from shore, 142 people, extracting gas so sour it could take your breath away. Methane, hydrogen sulfide and carbon dioxide, poisonous and very, very flammable. What stands between a good, safe working environment and a potential disaster? Between going about your job in confidence and running serious risks every shift. The difference is consistent, thorough hydrocarbon release prevention behaviours. We all know about hydrocarbon release prevention, or at least we think we know. But accidents still happen. A sheen on the water, a minor leak, an exclusion zone, a halt to work, evacuation. And there remains the potential, however small, for catastrophic loss of life. But we can prevent it all through correct behaviours. It's not rocket science, it's joined up thinking.
That's where we finish. It's basically drawing together best practice across industry, across our steering groups, bringing that all together, producing some very worthwhile material for you to use, for you to present offshore and onshore to the workforce. So that's joined up thinking. That's a whistle-stop tour of step change. Like I say, you can talk for hours. It's very much crammed in there. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take them now. It's actually time for you to move on. So really good timing for me. Any quick questions before you move on?
If you didn't get paid enough, I'll get £1 for you.
Thank you. That's fine. Move on.